Hi everyone, my name is Fereshteh Amini and I'm here to present our project. Thanks for the introduction. This is a joint project with University of Manitoba, where I'm from. I'm doing my PhD there, and then Microsoft Research at Redmond and ENAC with our collaborators whose names are here. So the transformation of data into visually shared stories is something that the visualization community has started to pay more attention to it. And the process usually starts by exploring the data, finding data insights, and then trying to sequence them and make up a story and tell the story. There's a lot of work, and there's the visualization tools that are out there are mostly focusing on the exploration and analysis of the data and how to find these stories. But there's less work done on how to tell the story and how to present the result of this analysis or exploration. And that's where our work mostly kind of lies in this work. More recently, and this paper, you mentioned this as well, there's work that has looked at different genres of narrative visualization and just give a general sense of the range of visual or narrative components that are used in each of these genres. And then amongst them, there's film, video, and animation, which is what we are going to focus here, and that's a very little work has been done in this area, and in terms of looking at what the components are and how we can use video as a medium, as a powerful medium to tell stories. And then there's more focused work that has been done that's focusing on different genres of visualization or different aspects of storytelling. For example, having solutions incorporated into the tools to tell stories, or looking at different genres. For example, in this one here, the authors have looked at infographics and how memorable they are, or how to sequence these visualizations when you're telling a story. But again, they're mostly focused on non-video genres or aspects that are more focused, and we are looking at a broader sequencing, or in terms of from a cinematography lens. So what is data video? These are growing genre of visualization-driven videos, and these are animated narratives driven by numbers and insights. They combine both auditory and visual stimuli to tell a stimulating or compelling story. Our work is an attempt to try to understand data videos and answer this question that how these videos are employed to tell data stories. More particularly, there are three angles that we're looking at. The first one is what are the constructing components of these videos? What are they made of? Are there any common structures or patterns that people use to tell stories with data videos? And then finally, what are the processes involved in creating data videos? Which, again, as far as we know, there hasn't been much work in this area as well. So in trying an attempt to answering these questions, we first took a closer look at sample data videos that are out there. There's a good collection of them online, and we see more and more of them being produced. So ideally, what we will have is, if you only include compelling videos or data videos that we would study, but there aren't any objective metrics that are available to make that selection process easier. So what we've done for selection process, we looked at reputable sources such as The Guardian, New York Times, as well as videos that have a high number of views in sources like YouTube.com and Vimeo.com. Our selection criteria included videos that present insights that are supported by data. They should at least have one visualization. That's what we're interested in. And then they should follow a narrative format. In analysis and how we approached the analysis was looking at 50 data videos, so our corpus included 50 of them, and we did open coding, so to characterize the content, and that's two researchers coming together, iteratively going through codes, coming up with a code set, and then another researcher kind of went on and completed the coding. There's more information on this in the paper. And then we also did close coding, used close coding for analyzing data videos around main categories from the cinematography lens, and these are narrative categories. I'll talk about this a little more quickly. All right, so the first thing we looked at was the content of these data videos, more specifically visualization types. We were interested to see what kind of visualizations they're using. Interestingly enough, there aren't a lot of complicated visualizations. There's a lot of simple ones, but popular ones like pie charts, line charts, bar charts, maps. But amongst them, there's Pictographs, and our community has started looking at them, and the previous session had a paper on that, and there's definitely work that can be done. These are used very commonly in data videos and very commonly in any data stories that are targeting broader audiences. And then we also looked at attention cues, and there's animation, which, as you would expect from a video, there's a lot of that used. But there are other types of attention cues. These are cues to grab a viewer's attention and kind of highlight different aspects of the data and guide the story. But there weren't a lot of different, so there's a limited number of them also. So animated pictographs, again, there's definitely room to look at them, and these are little icons that represent data units, and there's very much use in data videos, and we're glad to see work being done, and there's a lot of room to definitely explore. We looked at narrative structure. So what do I mean by that? The narrative structure is anything that involves telling a story. You kind of follow a structure to make the story compelling. And this is very much used in other disciplines that involve storytelling, not much maybe in visualization, but community. But we looked at other disciplines, and more particularly work done by Neil Cohen on comics, and the broader kind of definition of different narrative components that are involved in the narrative structure. So looking at this one example of a data video, we can see that there's an establisher unit. There's it can be one or two units that these are units that give referential information, not necessarily engaging them in an action, and then followed by the initial units. Again, it could be one or multiple, hence the plus sign, and then you can, these are actions that build up to, so give more information. So there are some new facts that are included here, and build up to go to the peak, which is usually followed by drastic kind of audio and video effects to grab your attention, and then the aftermath of it, which is the release units, and usually there are multiple of them, and they kind of try to build up on what's already mentioned, so there's repeated information there, and there's also sometimes new facts also included in that too. So looking at it and coding all the data videos, we noticed that the initial phase or category takes up a big chunk of these data videos. And then we also looked at how they're sequenced, so how these categories are kind of put together to give a story to the viewer. To our surprise, there wasn't. There are a lot of different ones. So there's a lot of different ways you can sequence these categories. But there are also some more common ones that people tend to stick to. And it would be great to look at these more carefully and see if a particular structure informs a more compelling story. So looking at if these impact the story or the viewer. There's definitely work that can be done here as well. We also looked at different types of elements that are included in every single category. So we looked at questions, which are, again, there's a lot of them in data videos, and usually at the beginning phases. There's takeaway messages, which is usually at the end phase, and then there's tension builders, and they're usually before the peak. But more interestingly, there was repetition of facts. So you not only provide facts, and you not only talk about facts, there's a lot of repetition that's happening. And that's something that we could use as the community to try to, whenever we're thinking about an authoring tool for a visualization, for storytelling, think about incorporating that because even though these videos are average 3 minutes, they're short, even with that limited time, repeating facts is helping to conveying the story. Also, new facts that you see like the blue kind of sections, they are everywhere, and that's again interesting because you kind of think that you might not want to have new facts at the end, but sometimes you want to have a new fact that jumps and then kind of leave the viewer with that fact. So that's interesting as well. We also looked at the process of creating the storyboards for data videos. How we approached this was by running multiple workshops, and these included 3 experienced storytellers and from different backgrounds that involved storytelling, such as writers, graphic designers, and cinematographers, of course, because we were interested to see how they would approach the storytelling storyboarding for data videos. And the sessions were 3 hours long, 3 individuals and 5 groups of 2. And we provided the participants with general interest data on marriage and divorce to kind of make sure that it's of interest to the broader audience. We provided them with 12 data facts, and then we had 22 data visualizations that supported those facts, but we actually asked them, they were free to invent their own visualization or stick to ours, so if they knew how to make visualization, they could do that as well. So the workshops involved multiple people talking out loud, or if we were in a team, kind of discussing their approaches at every stage, and they use pen and paper and sticky notes to make it a little bit easier to go and rearrange the sequence if they wanted to. And then we told them they're going to win a prize if the most compelling storyboard, so to kind of motivate them to make the best that they can. So we ended up with 10 totally different storyboards, and that was very exciting to see. Our data sets were the same for every group, but they ended up producing totally different things. For example, let's look at a very short one that we have, and that's participant in that one used the royal wedding, which was very well known to a lot of people, and then the metaphor of cupcakes and wedding cakes to kind of call for action, which in this case was decreasing the number of divorces. The analysis for this was kind of very similar, and we were interested more to analyze the process they took rather than what they produced, because it was a short amount of time. This process usually takes more time, but even with that, we felt like there was good insights that we took. So over 24 hours of video from 8 sessions we had, and then we again used open coding approach with 2 researchers. And as well as there were some codes for the narrative structure that we had from study 1 that we used here as well. Here we are going to, I'm going to report on key observations, so just salient results that we have, and I invite everybody to look at the paper for a lot more information that's included in there. The process involved different activities, and the main activities were reading and interpreting, going through the data, and selecting your information, and then sequencing them, and then also using strategies to engage viewers. So if you can see here, there's a lot of different ways people approach this. So group 1, there's a lot of blue selection happening, and then there's group 3 that has a lot of orange stripes, and that means that they spend more time on engaging the viewer, and because of their backgrounds, because group 3 was the graphic design, and the first ones was the writers, which writers are more interested in finding solid kind of data that supported their story rather than engaging the viewers. So here, looking at how intertwined these activities were, we definitely think that an authoring tool that targeting this should should be flexible enough to support authors to go back and forth between the activities for sure. We also looked at some of the comments, so they were talking about, or the comments that we, the notes that we had. And then there's things like adding musical scores, voiceovers to engage viewers, or visual and audio effects. But more interestingly, and story-related, was the fact that they wanted to bring back, so they wanted to include a recurring character from the story to make it cohesive from the beginning to the end, and that kind of reflects back on the idea of repetition of new facts, and this could be an interesting way of doing it. In summary, we had 2 exploratory studies on data videos, content. We looked at content and creation process, and then there was some design guides that informed the design of an authoring tool. We also, in the process, we also noticed a lot of research opportunities in the storytelling with data. There's same as any laboratory study, there's limitations, and the limitations on the corpus of data videos that we had, and then not many participants with experience in creating data videos, which is something that we couldn't do anything about, but further studies with people that create more and more of these would be interesting to look at. And then the workshops were outside experts' working environment, but even with that, and even with the short time that we had, which is pushing it 3 hours for the lab study, but even with that, we got really interesting insights, we feel. What's next for me is the work that I'm right now involved in. And I'm trying to have this tool, an authoring tool that enables people to create components of a data video and then sequence them and create data videos. And then hopefully, and I'm interested in looking at how to evaluate the results of data videos that people create with this, so we have a more controlled kind of environment. And then as well as the authoring process. So thank you very much.
Hi. You had the sort of peak, so I was curious about how much agreement you had between coders on the peak. And also I was wondering about looking at the peak as a transition. So often in stories they have this idea of you have state 1 and then you have something that happens and you end up in state 2, and that sort of basic limit of an event in narratology. Yeah. And I wondered how the idea of that sort of idea of a transition corresponded to your view of a peak. Yeah, so we did not include transition. If it was just a transition between a fact to fact, that was not like, so there were videos that did not have peaks, that's in our case. But peaks, we after going back and forth between 10% of the videos, it was very easy to, the other ones were a little harder, but peak was actually very easy, just because in our videos, there's always something that would kind of jump at you with the extra visual and auditory. But the other ones, I would say, were like a little more questionable. So if there was no peak, where was the initial, and then where was the release? That was a little harder. But again, I think we feel like we got good agreements at the end.
Yeah, just one very short question. Well, okay, real quick comment. Dan Russell from Google.
Hi.
Storytellers know that sometimes less is more. Yeah. And in 1993, Wayne Little, your talk reminded me, created this video called The Dangers of Glitziness, which is a data video about the dangers of data videos.
Yeah.
Right?